What happens when a Hollywood legend refuses to play by the rules of daytime television? When a man known for his strength, his composure, and his quiet intensity finds himself blindsided on national TV by a host who doesn't seem interested in conversation, only confrontation. It happened live. It happened fast. And for 15 unforgettable minutes, the world saw what really happens when respect is replaced by ego. The cameras were rolling. The lights were blinding. The audience was clapping. Everything looked picture-perfect until it wasn't. Wesley Snipes walked on to the Jennifer Hudson show expecting a celebration of his career, a chance to talk about his latest work, his legacy, his comeback. Instead, what he got was something colder, a smile that didn't reach the eyes, questions that felt less like curiosity and more like accusations. And in that moment, just seconds after the applause faded, you could feel it, the tension, the unease, that invisible shift in the air when something is about to go wrong. Jennifer leaned forward with that practiced charm, but her tone carried an edge. The audience didn't know it yet, but they were about to witness one of the most uncomfortable interviews in daytime history. 15 minutes. That's all it took for the conversation to turn from admiration to hostility. And for Wesley Snipes to remind the world that sometimes the most powerful response isn't shouting, isn't arguing. It's standing up and walking away. This is where it all began. The studio was alive. Lights blazing, cameras sweeping across a cheering crowd, the kind of electric energy that daytime television thrives on. Jennifer Hudson sat center stage, smiling that flawless talk show smile. The one that could disarm almost anyone. Almost. Because behind that smile, something else lingered. A hint of curiosity sharpened into something colder. Something calculated. Wesley Snipes walked out to the roar of applause, his signature calm presence filling the room. He was dressed sharp, confident, composed, every bit the Hollywood icon people had admired for decades. He waved, nodded, and settled into the guest chair as Jennifer leaned forward, hands clasped, ready to begin. On the surface, everything looked perfect. 2 stars, 1 couch, 1 friendly conversation. But beneath the gloss of show business there was tension. Invisible, but real. The crowd laughed easily at the small talk. Compliments were exchanged, smiles flashed for the cameras. But then, the rhythm changed. The laughter faded just a little too soon. The smiles lasted just a little too long. Something shifted in the air, like a storm waiting for permission to break. And while the cameras captured bright colors and perfect lighting, you could sense the heat underneath. 2 strong personalities circling each other, unaware they were seconds away from collision. In that moment, the stage wasn't just a set anymore. It was an arena, and neither of them knew yet. Only one would walk away untouched. It started like any other interview. Light, polite, rehearsed. Jennifer Hudson leaned in, that familiar charm radiating across the stage as she listed off Wesley's accomplishments. Blade, Demolition Man, White Men Can't Jump. Each title drew applause, each memory a reminder of the man's legacy. Wesley smiled humbly, thanking her, his tone grounded, his energy calm. Everything felt safe, controlled, predictable. But then it happened. That subtle turn. The kind of shift you can't see, but you can feel. Deep in your gut. Jennifer's voice changed ever so slightly. Softer, but sharper. The kind of tone that cuts while pretending to caress. "So, Wesley," she said, tilting her head just enough to look curious instead of confrontational. "A lot of people still talk about your tax situation." The audience went quiet. Not shocked, just uncertain. That uneasy silence that creeps in when entertainment stops being fun. Wesley didn't flinch, not yet. His smile froze, his eyes flickered a fraction of a second that said everything. He'd been here before. Not this stage, but this kind of ambush. Jennifer pressed on, her words wrapped in innocence but laced with intent. "You went to prison, right? For tax evasion? How does someone with so much success just forget to pay their taxes?" The crowd shifted. Laughter died. Cameras zoomed in. The conversation was over before anyone realized it. The interview had become something else, a battle dressed as small talk. Wesley's smile was gone now, replaced by something colder, quieter, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. He leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on Jennifer, not in anger but in disbelief. The audience could feel it, that heavy shift in the air, that tension that makes your chest tighten. Jennifer tried to recover, laughing lightly as if to brush it off, but her voice trembled just enough to betray her. "I mean, it's public record, right?" she said, forcing a grin, hoping humor would smooth the jagged edge she'd just created. But Wesley didn't laugh. He didn't play along. He just looked at her and said, slowly, deliberately, "You invited me here to talk about my work, not my past." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was electric. The audience shifted uneasily, torn between curiosity and discomfort. You could almost hear the heartbeat of the room. Jennifer tried to pivot, fumbling for another question, but the damage was done. Wesley wasn't giving her a way out. He leaned forward, voice calm but cutting. "You know, there's a difference between journalism and disrespect." The audience reacted. Gasps, murmurs, applause. Jennifer's smile vanished completely. The control she'd held so tightly onto was slipping through her fingers. For the first time, she was the one on the defensive, and for the first time, he wasn't the guest. He was the truth-teller, live and unfiltered, on her own stage. It happened in a flash, the kind of moment that changes everything. You could feel it building, second by second, like pressure in a sealed room. Jennifer asked one more question. Sharp, personal, unnecessary, and that was it. That was the moment Wesley Snipes decided he was done. He sat there for half a second, staring at her, not saying a word. The air was thick, the audience frozen in that uneasy stillness that comes when everyone knows something real is about to happen. Then Wesley leaned forward, voice low but steady, every word slicing through the silence. "You brought me here to talk about my work, and all you've done is disrespect me." "I'm not here for that," gasps echoed through the crowd. Jennifer tried to interject, but Wesley didn't give her the chance. He stood up, calm, composed, collected. No shouting, no theatrics. Just truth. The cameras followed him as he straightened his jacket and began to walk toward the exit. The audience started clapping, hesitant at first, then louder, building into a wave of support. It wasn't rebellion. It was recognition. They knew what they were witnessing. A man choosing dignity over drama, respect over ratings. Jennifer stood frozen, her practiced TV smile gone, eyes wide, unsure whether to stop him or let him go. But Wesley never looked back. Because once you reach your breaking point, there's only one move left. You walk away. When Wesley Snipes stood up and began to walk toward the edge of the stage, time seemed to slow down. Every step felt deliberate, controlled, powerful, final. The tension in the studio was suffocating. Cameras tried to follow, producers whispered frantically into headsets, and Jennifer Hudson just stood there, caught somewhere between shock and disbelief. The audience didn't know what to do at first. You could hear the hum of the lights, the faint shuffle of shoes against the studio floor. Then one person began to clap. Just one, then another, and another. Within seconds, the room filled with applause. Raw, unscripted, defiant. It wasn't for the drama. It was for the courage. Wesley didn't speed up or turn back. He just kept walking, his face unreadable, his composure unshaken. No anger, no theatrics, just quiet authority. He reached the exit, placed a hand on the door, and paused for a fraction of a second, long enough for everyone watching to understand the weight of what had just happened. Jennifer tried to recover, fumbling for words, but the energy had already shifted. The audience wasn't with her anymore. The cameras weren't capturing a talk show. They were capturing a statement. Because that walk wasn't just an exit. It was a declaration, a moment that said, you don't have to stay where you're disrespected. And when Wesley Snipes left that stage, he didn't just walk away from the show, he walked straight into history. The moment Wesley Snipes walked off that stage, the shockwaves began. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation flooded social media. Millions of views before the show had even finished airing. Headlines exploded across every platform. Wesley Snipes walks out on Jennifer Hudson, too. Tension erupts on live TV. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had something to say. For Wesley, though, there was silence. Intentional, powerful silence. No tweets, no interviews, no damage control. Just dignity. His publicist tried to prepare statements, but Wesley refused. "The footage speaks for itself," he said. And it did. Viewers saw the disrespect, the interruptions, the condescension, and they saw a man who chose self-respect over spectacle. Jennifer Hudson's team scrambled. The next day's show opened with an awkward acknowledgement, her tone caught between apology and justification. But the internet had already decided. The comment sections weren't kind. Clips comparing her reaction to Wesley's calm composure went viral. Meanwhile, Wesley's quiet strength turned into a movement. Fans called it the walk-off moment. Think pieces praised his restraint, his confidence, his refusal to perform humility for the cameras. In a world addicted to outrage, he'd done something far rarer. He walked away, and that's what stayed with people. Not the argument, not the awkward silence, but the choice. The power of a man who knew his worth and wouldn't let anyone, not even a celebrity host, take it from him. Wesley didn't lose that day. He reclaimed himself. The internet doesn't wait. Within hours, the clip of Wesley Snipes walking off Jennifer Hudson's show became the #1 trending video across every platform. Millions of people watched, rewatched, dissected, and debated every second of that tense exchange. Hashtags exploded. "Your Wesley walks," "Respect your guests," "Jennifer crossed the line." Everyone had an opinion, but one thing was clear. Wesley had struck a nerve. People weren't just watching a celebrity spat. They were watching something deeper, a real moment of human dignity play out on live television. Viewers flooded comment sections with praise for Wesley, calling him a class act, the definition of composure, a masterclass in self-respect. Others took aim at Jennifer, accusing her of turning journalism into humiliation. Clips of her facial expressions, her tone, her interruptions, all became part of the online trial. Memes surfaced. Reaction videos followed. Talk shows, podcasts, and entertainment analysts couldn't stop talking about it. Some defended her as being bold and unfiltered, but most people saw it differently. They saw a man who had been pushed too far and finally decided enough was enough. What started as a heated moment became a cultural flashpoint. Wesley Snipes wasn't just trending. He was being celebrated, not for anger, not for confrontation, but for walking away with his head held high. In a world where outrage often wins, Wesley reminded everyone watching that silence and self-respect still speak louder than any argument ever could. In the end, it wasn't about the argument. It wasn't about who was right or wrong, or what questions should or shouldn't have been asked. It was about something far more powerful. The moment someone decided their piece was worth more than public approval. Wesley Snipes didn't storm out in anger. He walked away with intention, with clarity, with dignity. And that's what made the world stop and take notice. Because we've all been there, in situations where respect was missing, where someone crossed a line, where staying silent felt easier than standing up. But Wesley reminded us that silence isn't always strength. Sometimes real strength is knowing when to walk away, not out of pride, but out of self-worth. Jennifer Hudson's show continued, her career moved forward, but that moment lingered. A mirror held up to the way we treat people in the name of entertainment. It forced audiences to ask hard questions about empathy, about accountability, about how easily we confuse tough with cruel. Wesley's walk-off became more than just a viral clip. It became a lesson that boundaries are sacred, that dignity has no price tag, and that no spotlight is worth standing in if it burns away your self-respect. He didn't win by shouting. He didn't win by fighting. He won by walking away, and reminding millions watching that sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is silence. When the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, one thing remained: the echo of a choice. A simple, powerful act that said more than any headline ever could. Wesley Snipes didn't just walk off a stage that day, he walked toward himself, toward peace, toward self-respect, and in doing so, he gave all of us permission to do the same, because life will test you. People will test you. They'll poke, they'll prod, they'll push, just to see how much you'll take before you break. But that moment on the Jennifer Hudson show reminded the world that it's not weakness to say, enough. It's strength. It's self-preservation. It's choosing your own worth over someone else's approval. Jennifer Hudson may have lost control of that interview, but what she, and millions watching, gained was perspective. Sometimes the real lesson doesn't come from the person holding the microphone, but from the one who chooses not to play along. Wesley didn't leave in anger. He left in peace. And in that peace was power, the kind of quiet, unshakable strength that can't be faked or forced. That's why people remember it. Not for the drama, not for the tension, but for the truth it revealed. So, the next time someone tries to pull you into chaos, remember this moment. Remember Wesley. And remember that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is simply stand up and walk away.